The Monster Hunter Wilds beta just ended, and we are gonna rank the monsters that were in that beta from worst to best. I know last week I said my next video would be about the Elden Ring network test, but it turns out I spent most of my time that I could have spent with the network test in the beta for a while, so instead. And before we start, here's a little info about what my journey as a Monster Hunter fan has been like over the years. So, it began with Monster Hunter World in 2018, and now we're here. And I went into this beta untainted. I did not know about any monsters I would face, nor did I watch the story-related cutscenes, as I didn't want to get spoiled for the actual game. So, I went in blind, I created my character, recreated my girlfriend's way too Austrian looking cat, and together, me and that cat went off into the dunes and storms of the Monster Hunter Wilds beta. For the purposes of this video, I fought every monster at least once, and man, the starting roster of monsters is very strong. So even though each monster will also receive a rank from S tier to F tier in theory, the lowest I will go for this video is C tier. At the very bottom of the C tier, almost dropping to a D, is Gypceros. This is actually wonderful news because, as it turns out, and as I found out while writing this video, this monster is the only one of the 6 I fought that is not new. So this one being the lowest already says a lot about the quality of the new monsters. And for being at the bottom, this one isn't too bad. It looks and acts really funny, it has got a lot of character, and the playing dead trick is actually hilarious and further makes the character stand out a lot more. But regardless of that, fighting this rubbery chicken feels just like eating a rubbery chicken, which means having unfortunate encounters with cartilage every few seconds and probably also getting poisoned half the time. Basically, what I imagine the experience when ordering chicken nuggets at an American McDonald's is like. So yeah, I don't really like fighting this one, but I love the character and how it interacts with its environments. Chippy can actually pluck flying monsters out of the sky with its tail and snack up on these glowing bugs to recharge its flashing attack. I already mentioned how it plays dead, but I also love how it throws a tantrum a few times during the fight, because it is really unhappy with the whole situation of being killed and stuff. So yeah, it is a bit of a pain to fight because it is the personification of food poisoning with an attitude, but it ain't too bad at all. And even though this creature was in the lower end of the C tier, we now move to the middle of B tier for our number 5. Chatacabra has the very hard task of being the first monster you will fight in Wilds, at least in the beta, and it passes this test with flying colors. It is memorable because of its design, and the design itself is also what makes this thing very cute. So I have a proposition to make. Dear Mr. Capcom, please allow players to craft a shrinking tool so we can not only capture monsters, but also shrink them down to pet size so that I can have a little Chatacabra or a slightly more threatening little Arkveld as my pet. Signed, the entire Monster Hunter community. But even though it's memorable, this little frog is maybe a bit too easy. This frog makes me want to turn vegan, because no amount of the cognitive dissonance I normally bask myself in, which allows me to think that whatever I am doing to these creatures is somewhat justified, is retained when I see the sheer amount of animal cruelty I am bringing down on this poor round blob like the aggressive Beyblade I am. Like, give me a slightly upgraded weapon and I alone can make this entire species go extinct in 45 minutes. But even though it has the disadvantages of accomplishing nothing ever, this does not deter our friend from having the guts to at least try. I sadly don't have it on video, but this little desert rain frog actually saw Rey Dau in the distance and charged at it with the intensity of an Elden Ring no-hit runner. And then obviously got shot in the face twice point blank and had its body broken. But I admire that it tried.
Ferocious.
We are still in B tier when we get to the one I am the most mixed about, Doshaguma. Insanely interesting concept and a fight that also has an interesting dynamic going on. Separating the alpha from the pack is harder than it looks. As you can see, I struggled with that quite a bit. Then wanted to run away and maybe get one of them into a turf war to help separate the pack, but instead it was the sands that helped me separate the Doshagume, because the weaker ones got gobbled up by it. The fight itself is also quite fun, as the wounds you inflict actually open up again when it rages, And when this one rages, it actually hits way harder than Chata or Balahara or Gypceros because it deals a lot of damage. If the other Doshu then also come back on top of that, then we got a fucking problem. So there's a lot you have to consider, which I think can be a bit annoying over time because the fight takes longer than I would like. But again, I'm not too sure on this one. I think my opinion on Doshaguma might flip-flop with the full release. Which is exactly why this one is around the middle of the B tier for now, a bit above Chata and a bit below my number 3. Balahara. The developers seem to already have the shrinking tool I mentioned earlier, because they took the worms from Dune and shrunk them down to a size that can be dealt with. I love the design of this creature. The design itself would warrant an A tier. The movement is also so off and weird. It's just very cool. The only bad thing is that the fight itself is a bit too samey and easy. My dual blades cut through this like an oversized sea cucumber. It really does not have a lot going on in its favor. Its Sandborn attacks rarely connect, they only go into your general direction. Only the tail swipes can sometimes hit you, but even then it won't really be a huge issue because they don't deal a lot of damage. Of course, this is an early game fight, so it is supposed to be easy. But this is clearly the second easiest of the bunch and easily soloable even by a somewhat noob like myself in under 10 minutes. Which is a bit sad because I feel like this one being harder would actually make this one so much cooler. What I'm gonna say now applies to every one of these monsters except maybe for Gypceros. I hope we get variants of these or subspecies later on. Especially Chatacabra, Balahara or even Rey Dau could go crazy with a hard late game version. Imagine Balahara's subspecies just being almost the normal size of one of those Dune things. Now that would be imposing and could go crazy. For now, this one is at the very top of B tier, glancing over at the A tier, and it sees that the A tier is empty. Because the A tier would normally be reserved for the Anjanaths of the world, maybe a Rathalos or Rathian. But the top 2 of this list go straight past the true greats and go for the true best of the best, the S tier. Archveld is, even if the thumbnail will say otherwise, my number 2, not number 1. But even though that's the case, even though it is number 2 here, Archveld is an absolute menace, and as a flagship, I might even be inclined to put it above our beloved Nergigante from World. When I went out to face this lad, I only had one goal. Not die 5 times, aka actually survive till the time runs out. And I not only did that, I even managed to cut off its tail, which is kinda nice. Regarding the fight itself, it's close to perfect. The only downside is that sometimes it's a bit hard to see what's going on, but apart from that, Arki's chain attacks actually give you quite a bit of room to breathe here and there. But when it hits quite hard, especially when it's glowing red and it is making everything your problem. People were saying that using your sacred to get away would make the game too easy, but make no mistake, they just upped the aggression on a lot of these monsters. I can only imagine what it would be like to fight a big bad monster in a small space, where getting away is much harder. But even in this open space, I got my ass handed to me. And what I did catch on video, by the way, is when I accidentally interrupted a fight between Archveld and Rey Dau by dropping boulders on both of them. I would love to see who comes out on top when these fight. But to sum up, this is just a really cool dragon with really cool unique chains. And sometimes that's not only enough, it is exactly what we need. While Archveld was probably around the middle of S tier, at the very top of S tier, S+ if you will, one of the best monsters to ever exist in Monster Hunter I reckon, sits the magnificent Rey Dau. I don't know who came up with this design, but I want to give them a raise, a house. Actually, I personally give them the keys to my city of Vienna. Rey Dau would just fit in, roaming the skies above Reumerbloods. This monster is a thunder dragon gun, and I love it. I don't know what to say. I'm just absolutely mesmerized by the sheer aura this monster has. This is the monster that truly owns the windswept plains. The thunder is its home, and it too rains down pain by the second when you fight it. Every attack on this thing feels fair but hard. And as you can see, just like with Archiveld, I actually did not manage to slay it with the one try I gave myself, but I did manage to observe it. And oh my god, the sound design for this thunderous gun is maybe the best I have ever heard come from a monster in Monster Hunter. It blows Legiana and Bagel Geese out of the water. It is perfection. I unironically listened to an 18-minute compilation of all the sounds it makes just to be able to fully grasp everything they did for this creature. This literally is my favorite design of any creature, at least since the Elden Ring DLC. This is peak. This is what we wait for, this is what we hunt for, and this is what we die for. I can't wait to hop onto the game with some friends post-release and slay this god of the storm. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and yeah, a different video. I don't know if I will make another Monster Hunter video. I think there would be a lot I could cover in Wilds, but it all depends on if you want to see more. If you do, please do the usual stuff like liking, commenting and the like. And thanks to my Patreons Ido, Ora, and new to the club, Sherry. I appreciate all your support so much. Thanks a ton, and I will see you next week with another video, hopefully unless I spontaneously combust into dust and particles. Bye.